got a really bad feeling about this one. And I'll tell you what that really bad feeling is in a minute, but let's talk about what this one is. And this one is a video about the Paul George 4s, the Nike PG4s that have been dropping over the last couple of months. And here we are with a new iteration. Now it's awful close to something we've looked at before, which is right here, that's the bread. But this is slightly different, and there's a different feel to it, which goes all the way back to Paul George being interested in outdoors, specifically fishing. And that's the motif that he's gone for in this sneaker. And that comes through pretty clearly in some certain places, especially because he's bringing his middle name into it, or should I say one of his middle names into it. He actually has two middle names, but he can't cram both of them into this sneaker for a specific reason. We'll get to that specific reason, and we'll get to why I think this one might not go very well in a minute. But first, let's just open up this video that is going to be about the Nike PG4 PCG. This is a Talking About a 23 Sneaker channel. Talking About a 23 Sneaker channel. Des, Mainichi Absurno de, Mainichi Midi Kudasai. Every single day from Tokyo, Japan, I bring you content about upcoming sneaker releases, sneaker news, and sneaker reviews. And today, you know, every single day, bringing the videos, this Nike PG4 PCG. I've got to get that right, because if I get that wrong, the kind of whole story of the sneaker goes out the window. But it's going to be a tough one today. I've got a really bad feeling about this one because we're in sort of lockdown light, diet lockdown, semi-lockdown, whatever you want to call it here in Tokyo, Japan, which means I'm stuck at home, which means I'm shooting from home. And right now it is 11:30 at night. My little girl's sleeping next door. I've got a feeling that this is going to be the video that she comes and interrupts us on. So far I've managed to shoot this daily content from home for some like 3 or 4 weeks without any interruptions, but I fear the day that she comes running through, knocks the camera over and pulls the green screen down. So fingers crossed it isn't that day, but I just have that bad feeling about it. That's where we're going. But let's just get into it, and if that happens, that happens. I'm not one for, you know, cutting stuff like that out of videos. Of course, if she did come barreling in here and she needed like 10 minutes to get back to sleep, I wouldn't just have 10 minutes of silence. But, you know, we'll see what happens. But fingers crossed a little princess won't disturb us as we get into this Nike PG4 PCG. Now, I've got to get this right because of that PCG and ACG. And what the ACG is, all conditions gear. It's a line at Nike that's to do with like trails, to do with outdoors, to do with mountains, to do with rivers, to do with forests. You know, it's outdoor wear. It's not running wear. It's not track wear. It's more to do with rugged things. And that whole tie-up with Paul George comes in that situation where he's really into his outdoors and he's really into his fishing, and he wants to tie those two together. So we've got the all condition gear, the ACG line from Nike, and we're replacing that A with a P to go with the PCG. So instead of ACG, it's PCG or Paul CG. And what that is his name is Paul Clifton George, so the PCG comes in there, but he also has a middle name Anthony as well. But then those 4 letters wouldn't work because it's ACG PCG. It works, but if you made it ACG PCAG, it wouldn't work. So that's the reason why the sneaker is named in that way. That's where that tie-up with his name comes, and that whole sort of all conditions gear, all terrain gear, whatever you want to call that, is the whole tie-up for this sneaker. We're going to look at that. We'll start off with that PCG motif because it comes in 2 very important places. One is on the insole. Hopefully you can see that on the green screen right here, looking down from above into these guys. You can see that triangle that would normally say ACG, saying PCG, and then that same triangle, same motif. You flip these guys around and have a look at the heel. Again, should be behind me here on the green screen. You'll see that triangle motif there. Again, you can understand looking at this why that extra A from Anthony wouldn't work with PCAG. It wouldn't work in the sort of motif of this sneaker. And you have to stick with that whole outdoors theme and that whole fishing and sort of outdoorsiness that Paul George is going for in this sneaker. And then that's why they've dropped that Anthony part out of there. And of course, the CG part, Clifton George, it's, you know, it matches the ACG part of the motif they're going for in this sneaker. But staying with that motif, let's go to the main point where that motif is visible, and that's on the midsole. Now, this sneaker is awful close to those breads, especially given that it's red and black in many places. The main place that it's different, there's 2 in my mind, main places where it's different. One is the upper, and we'll get to that in a minute. But first we're going to go to the midsole. The midsole on the breads was very white, except for that length of the midsole air unit sort of design bar along the side, which gave it a bit of of definition. But if you're looking at it right now at the midsole on these guys, you can see A, it's got that muddy sort of outdoorsy feel to the colour, and B, that bar that runs the length of these things is in the same colour as the midsole, so it kind of all fits in together. Whereas I'm sure I've shown you the bread up here, and you can see that contrast between the midsole and the bar, and then here there's no contrast at all because it's exactly the same colourway. Speaking of full-length air units, as it says on here, and I'll be able to show you some pictures where that full-length air unit is sort of displayed. Obviously then this is not a Pegasus. The Pegasus 37 dropped recently, and we talked about that in another video, and they talked about how they had shrunk the air unit from being full length to just down to the front of the sneaker, so it's a 4-foot air unit on the Pegasus 37, to do with that being the main point where runners are impacting the pavement. But this being a basketball sneaker, you use more of your foot than a runner probably would do, so that full-length air unit is very, very necessary on there. And since we're talking about that, we might as well flip these guys upside down and have a look at the outsole. I've talked about this before when I reviewed those breads, how I like the outsole, and it kind of seems to be a sort of similar thing that's coming around. I think the Under Armour 7s have a similar sort of design on the bottom of them, and then some of the other sort of the single-digit guys out there. So we're not talking LeBron 17 or Jordan 34, they're double-digit guys, but some of the single-digit guys seem to be going with this kind of constant motif pattern across the bottom of their sneakers, and these PG4s have that. But what let's say they expand on that by having a two-tone outsole instead of a single-tone outsole, and again it reflects that outdoorsy feel that they're trying to go for with that fishing tie-up to this shoe. So that's the whole sort of bottom half of the shoe taken care of. Let's get into that top half of the shoe that I was talking about, and specifically looking at the upper as a whole thing. It is very bread, but it's toned down, and instead of being black red, it's almost grey red. So we call that gred. Maybe not, but it's more grey red than black red, and you can see that most obviously on the lateral side. When you look at the lateral side of these guys, the red's there in full evidence, but then the darker parts that contrast that are in a sort of lighter kind of grey feel to them. And then if we flip them around and have a look at the medial side, you've got that mesh on the medial side that gives these guys that two-tone effect, and then splitting that mesh on the medial side and then the lateral side upper, you've got the zipper down the middle, which I've talked about before that I don't usually like on my sneakers, but on these guys I don't mind it too much, because when you open that zipper, what do you find on the inside? You find the laces. But not only do you find the laces on the inside of these guys as you do on any of the PG4s, what you also find is the real kicking bread colorway coming in. And again, that should be visible here, how vibrant that red is against the black, whereas on the outside, when the zipper's done, it's a bit more toned down. Maybe again that's something to do with being outdoorsy and not trying to scare the wildlife away, but then when you want to check on the inside, when you're not actually wearing them, or when you're wearing them casually, not in nature, that red there isn't such a worry. So so you can really see that if you unzip these guys and look on the inside, that bread effect that's going on in there. And staying in there with that, the zipper, if we close the zipper up again and go to the very bottom of it, one of my favourite features on this sneaker, small little design element, is right at the bottom of the zipper, that kind of geometric PG graphic or icon or logo, maybe we'll go with logo for it, motto, I don't know, but that tiny little PG on the bottom of the zipper right down there, I really appreciate that. And if we go back again to the outsole, I think you'll find that there's a sort of insert in the middle there, a circular insert there, that also houses that PG graphic in the same sort of geometric design that we saw above. Now if we take these guys and look at them from far away, let's go back and look at the entire sneaker. To me, not a bad looking sneaker. I do like the PG4s. They're not my favorite sneaker though. I would put them as a solid sneaker, but they're not the kind of sneaker that I'm personally all that invested in, although I am kind of invested in Paul George because I think he's a great basketball player. He's one of the few basketball players that comes into my kind of sphere, which means he must be doing something right, because there aren't that many that make it across the Pacific to Tokyo, Japan and into my world. Russell Westbrook being probably the other one of the main guys out there right now. But these PG4s, you know, they're pretty cool. They won't really stand up against the breads, but I don't think they're meant to. I think the breads are meant to be sort of iconic and cool, and like that bread colorway, it's a big deal when you get a bread sneaker, whereas these guys, they've deliberately toned it down so that they're not going in competition, because these, I think, are marketed more at that outdoorsy line or that outdoorsy person. So it's kind of, they're trying to make it stand alone, so they sort of soften the black on the top so it isn't a bread sneaker, and then you don't need to go in competition with the breads and these guys because they both stand alone. But like I say, these guys, I think most people that will go after these guys are actually going to use them in the outdoors and not really on the basketball courts. But that's just me. I might be wrong in that. You might be out there having your own perspective and thinking, you know what, love these guys. Glad that they've gone that white midsole out of the breads out of the way and gone with this sort of more earthy toned outsole. Midsole, actually both midsole and outsole, because it's the second colour on the outsole is that earthy tone. So for me, it's a sneaker, but for you it might be something different. And I love it when people have differences of opinion. I totally appreciate that, and appreciate that's one of the elements of having a channel, is that people can give their differences of opinion, and I'm happy to share that with you guys. For now though, time for me to sign off. Thank you very much for watching the content. Thank you to my little girl for not interrupting. My worst fears were not realised. I didn't get interrupted this time, so that's probably let's see, it's March the 4th today, and this will go live March 5th. This is tomorrow's video. It's almost today, but it's not yet today. It's still tomorrow's video, and that means I've been doing these at home probably for almost a month now. So I've gotten through a month without my little girl interrupting us. So yay to that, and hopefully that will continue. And but you know, I got to go away and edit this, guy. So let's get this thing done and polished for another day. Happy to bring you this daily content, even though it is challenging under these challenging times. But you know what? Everybody's challenged out there, so let's all just keep on keeping on and doing our best. For now though, time for me to sign off. Thank you guys for checking out my content. But as I do this every single day, that means that you are guaranteed to see me tomorrow.